Come on in. All is a blessing. Greetings. Greetings and salutations, and welcome to another edition of Revolutionary Hoodoo, New Orleans Voodoo, Secrets and Recipes. All is truly and indeed a blessing. You can just see beyond the veils, for it is all just an illusion and a test to one of the greatest divine mysteries of this life cycle. Come on in, come on in. The fire is hot, the water is a boiling. Come back home, come back home. All is a blessing. Yes. Greetings and salutations, Freedom None. Greetings, Matthew. Greetings, divine, all blessed peace and love, joy and prosperity. Come on in. Hi, Bobo. Come on in. Greetings. Craig Burns, come on in, beloved Craig Burns. Come on in. Yes. I love to see my regular co-hosts coming in. Come back home to Africa. She's calling your name to win. Come back home to Africa. The fatty calf and golden rain are waiting for you once again. Greetings, beloved, the Goddess Initiative. Come on in, my co-host. Come on in. Greetings. Santa Rita, Trinity Santo, beloved, come on in. Benedictiones, come on in. Shamafia, greetings, beloved. Greetings. Thank you for being my consistent family, friend, and co-host, and supporter, and gift giver. All is a blessing. Come on in, Neophyte Cool. Come on in, co-host. Greetings and salutations. I know you got something to say today. Everybody, I know you got something to say today. Come on in. Greetings, divine, all blessed gratitude, humility, thankfulness. Yes, come on in, beloved. Greetings, Dark Empress Key. Come on in, beloved. Yes, it's been a while. We've had hurricanes. We've had politics. We've had all kind of COVID-19 events. All is a blessing. Oshun Yemi, Abubu, Abuye, Abushishe. Come on in, beloved. Come on in. Greetings. The coldest. Come on in. Yes. Welcome. It's another powerful edition of Revolutionary Voodoo, New Orleans Voodoo, Secrets and Recipes. Do you know the calendar? Do you know the day? Do you know the time? Come on in and I will share. Come on in and we shall tell. All is a blessing. Greetings, Blog Talk Radio, 845-277-9143, 845-277-9143. Welcome, Blog Talk Radio. Greetings, London. Greetings, Paris. Greetings, Ethiopia. Greetings, Kenya. Greetings, Cameroon. Welcome, Nigeria. Welcome, Ghana. Welcome. Humbled and honored. Come on in, America. Come on in, Black America. Come on in, America. Come on in, ATR.
Come back home.
Greetings.
Come back home.
Yes.
Come back home.
Greetings. Come on back home. Yes. Thank you so much. Humbled and honored. You can call in or you can pop in on the screen. It's really up to you. Eshu Elegwana Kosi Were Awo Unlo Uto Ni Iwo Ada Afanbo Osi Obatala Mi Ita Ni Ibo Onilio Abane Shu. Eshu is the respected elder who flogs, confronts, and uncovers fools. The one versed in mysteries uses truth to own you. He causes scattered to feed poverty. Obatala shakes rascals to have sacrifice. The owner of warnings is the one who is Eshu, Aboru, Aboye, Aboshishe, Ashe. May our ever reach a rune. May our ever be accepted. May our ever allow what we desire to come to pass. And so we say, Ashe. Divine all blessed peace and love, joy and prosperity, elevation, revelations, and divine manifestation. You are now listening live to the Divine Prince, Pan African spiritualist, practitioner, author, and advisor, Elagun Oloye Hoodoo Obe Abakur. You may also be sitting with me on Facebook or Twitter or Periscope or EarthCam. And I am indeed grateful, truly humbled, and truly honored for your continued support, your continued love, your continued friendship, your continued community, our continued relationship, indeed, with the ancestors. And spirit, as it might manifest, as it might show itself, as it might demonstrate right now, in this most present moment in time space. Call me the stone that the builder refused. I don't know, but I shall always be the head cornerstone. I shall always be present with the truth. I shall always be present with the shortcut. I shall always be present with the doorway that is open for us right now in this most present moment in time space to better connect with ourselves. Ourselves. When we talk about the ancestors and we look up on high, but no, they're right here in your blood, in your DNA, in every waking moment, in every sleeping moment. They are present in every living moment. Indeed, they are present. And the Most High, of course, always infinite, always. And so we must put one foot in front of the other. One foot in front of the other. I don't care what your religion, your spiritual practice, where you are at any stage in your journey. This is a season of putting one foot in front of the other. And for those who understand the calendar, those who understand what day and time indeed it is, we want to talk a little bit about Ogun. Because indeed, Ogun is the foundation, is indeed the platform for which we are building ourselves, building our lives, building our consciousness, building our particular request with the ancestors and the Most High. But we also have to understand the tools, the implements of Ogun. And so we see the cauldron pot, we see the cast iron, we see the skillet. And indeed, Ogun is connected directly to humanity's discovery of fire. And then fire in its usage for transforming rock into useful tools like the cauldron pot, like the machete. And so indeed, there are other aspects of Ogun that we often miss, that we often overlook in the Orisha romance that is the display that we are often seeing and experiencing and being exposed to each and every day on the internet. Ogun is not indeed male specific, though Ogun is the male principle. Those who can understand Odu, who can read Odu, understand that pattern that is marked in the dust. And so we know and understand that there is a primordial male ancestral energy, masculine ancestral energy associated with Ogun. But indeed, there are sons of Ogun who are women, just as there are daughters of Oshun who are men. And so we want to always, we talk about Legba being first. We talk about Legba opening and closing the doors. But indeed, Legua is always accompanied somewhere real close by at least two other deities, just as Ogun is often associated somewhere close nearby by two other powers, two other Loa, two other Orisha. Ogun often doesn't speak when coming through in a ceremony. Ogun will often grunt, moan, make the sounds that we associated with men at work, pounding steel, chopping wood. And it is said often that Eshu will speak for Ogun, or Shosi might speak for Ogun. So you can't say Ogun, you can't invoke Ogun without the idea of action. There's always some action nearby. And I like to remind us that the machete, the cutlass, it's also about cutting away what no longer serves us. It's also about cutting away, clearing the path of that which is not useful to us, or to clear that material, like wood, like stone, and then transform it into something that is indeed useful to us and for us. We live in turbulent times. I don't have to tell you. Many of you are paying attention to the news, are paying attention to social media, are observing what people are saying and how people are feeling, and what is often demonstrated in this virtual world that connects us all, that makes the globe so much smaller in this little space here that we share together. And it's interesting when you get to be of a certain age, you begin to notice patterns. And so I can remember, the 60s, the late 60s, the early 70s, going into the 70s. This was before Dr. York was Dr. York. This was before uh, the Nation of Islam was widely accepted to some degree within our community. This was when Black Power was alive. This is when civil rights was active. This is when many of the things that we build upon, stand upon today were in formation. And I noticed the same pattern in religion. There's those that are always gung ho. There are those that are always quick on the news, quick when they're fresh, when they're just coming into consciousness. And then seasons change as they are naturally inclined to do. The weather happens, and then we move into other arenas. I like to use, for example, the hippies and the hippie movement, and their interest in the planet and nature and socializing and free love and all the things that sort of came out of that movement, only to see many of those entitled, privileged, middle to upper class children returning back to that foundation in the 80s, what we call the material 80s, became the bosses and the heads of many of these tech companies and these corporations. I noticed a pattern in our own community. And unfortunately, we've had an opportunity to see this pattern play itself out too many times in the last 10 years, too many times in the last 4 years. There's always that person who calls right in the middle of the show, right? So there's this pattern of action, activity, energy, emotion, feelings right on the surface, so close to the surface. We can't handle a tweet. We can't handle a post that might disagree, that might have a different opinion. And then that settles down, and people fall right back into their lives. People fall right back into their patterns. And so for those who are sensitive, the empaths, and those who are sensitive to that energy, I know people right now who can't go into Twitter, who can't be online, who aren't watching the news because they can't handle the heat, the fire, the energy associated with what's happening right now, not just in our country, but in Nigeria and in many other countries in the world right now. It's a seasonal shift. It's a planetary shift that we all are passing through. COVID knows no race, no bounds, no age, no religion. We are all passing through this eye of the needle. So, particularly when we stand up and acknowledge, Ogu, I like to get up early and get my charcoal hot, get my fire burning. Some of you saw my video on Instagram. I love frankincense and myrrh resin. It's one of my favorite products to use. I might prefer it often to sage. Now, of course, I grow my own sage, so I'm not, a party to the group of you who are destroying the planet by wiping out the last vestiges of white sage. But for those of us who are growing our own sage, I love sage, and sage has many usages, dietary usages, usages in Ebo, in ritual, usages in cleansing, and of course, burning, burnt offering, smudging. But I love frankincense and myrrh, and particularly Ethiopian frankincense and myrrh, Egyptian frankincense and myrrh. And when I can get it aged frankincense and myrrh, and I like to burn it in my cast iron, on Ogu's day, and I get a nice little fire going. Sometimes I might even break out the grill, but I like to get a nice little fire going, and it's an opportunity to revive that inner furnace, revive that inner desire to create and recreate a reality that mirrors your best interests. And it don't require, I'm not saying that it's not necessary or not, a good thing to do, but it don't require a whole lot of talk. It don't require a whole lot of talk. It requires action and activity. And so when we get into these seasons like this, and everybody has an opinion, and everybody's posting something, and everybody, and I shouldn't say everybody. Some of us are just observant. Some of us are just, daily social internet, participants, and we're not necessarily a part of the flame and the fuel of what's happening. But when we reshare without paying attention, without noting the details, I like to look at who posted that. I like to look at who's the user on that post, and I found many fake posts. I have a cute little app that I use on Twitter, and often those posts will eventually disappear. They will be suspended, by Twitter because they're, not real. I'm not going to digress into my lecture about COINTEL, my reminder about COINTEL, my reintroduction to those of you who are a little bit younger about what and who COINTELPRO is, and understand that is still alive. So we see a lot of heated posts. Greetings, beloved Chef Bougie and the beloved Orisha. Thank you so much for being present and so loving and supportive and consistent. So Ogu reminds us to have a foundation, have a scaffolding, be clear about what you're standing on. And I say almost every day, if not every day, that we stand on mighty shoulders of great ancestors. And indeed we do. It's in your blood, it's in your DNA. But the Orisha powers work in humanity and in the spirit realm. So we got to shore up our foundation and cut away those things, particularly right now in volatile financial times, volatile political times. Shore up your foundation and get rid of those things that no longer serve you. But remember to create and recreate that which mirrors your best interest, that which aligns with your best reality. Each and every day, each and every moment, each and every breath, you have an opportunity to begin anew. You have an opportunity to push your vision forward. Push your vision forward. So in these changing times and these patterns that I know, some of you I know aren't happy no matter who's in office, aren't happy no matter what's happening, aren't happy even when you should be happy. I pay attention. I pay attention. And let's be honest with ourselves. If you're dealing with depression, if you're dealing with some degree of untreated mental health, if you're just negative, you know, no matter what is happening, you're going to see life through that glass. You're going to see life through that glass. If you're not seeing through a healthy cipher, a balanced cipher, then you're always looking through a dirty glass. No matter what the blessing, no matter what the weather, no matter who's in charge, no matter what's going on. And I have that funny thing with this Asperger neophyte Bokur. I'm quick to pay attention to detail, especially those details that we often miss, that go unnoticed. And so there's those voices, and they might have 10 followers, they might have 100,000 followers. But there are those voices that feed negative, no matter what it is. And we use the best creative, artistic skills and abilities that we have. Because Ogun, you know, is the father of technology. We not only associate with Ogun with being the foundation, he has to clear the land, he has to make way for the village to be built, the family to be built, the ideal to be built upon, cutting away and doing away with that which is not reusable, recyclable, beneficial, that which cannot survive being passed through the fire. But then there's that element of creation, technology. When we think of technology, we forget, we neglect that the machete would have been an early form of technology, the cauldron pot, early forms of technology. Some of my godparents have said that Ogun is symbolic of that transition from Neanderthal to human. We associate the discovery of fire with Neanderthal man, but we don't necessarily associate language and communication with Neanderthal man. The idea of robing ourselves, protecting ourselves from the weather, finding shelter. But then humanity arises up out of the great continent. And, you know, science would say we mixed, some of us, to a certain degree with Neanderthal. And Neanderthal was not that only human form, or I shouldn't say human, but the only human-like form that existed on the planet. There was also the Dravidians, which is a little closer to Southeast Asia, where your next vice president, her mother hails from, and we understand that her father hails from Jamaica. And I might need some help, Neophyte Bokur.
Oh
Jamaica
yeah.
not ADOS, Jamaica not ADOS. Because I'm seeing a lot of people right now that are really worked up, you know, in social media about what's happening and about the politics of the day. And one of the areas of discussion is how uh, fraudulently black Kamala is being presented. So I'm open to all conversations today, both
Oh
spiritual
yeah.
and political, both magical and social. Neophyte Bokur, Forgive me, beloved. I had my computer muted.
Hopefully my mic is coming in clear. I've been
Yeah,
having a little issue with it as of lately.
you're really good right now. Greetings, beloved.
Greetings. Acknowledging the ancestors on this special November 9th.
Acknowledging Ogun
Oh,
on
yes.
my special day. Ashe.
Ashe. Got my special dagger out, seeing how I try not to have such big tools on this truck of mine, but got my blade.
Yes, indeed.
Very special one.
Yes, Santa Rita, the patterns are very, very visible right now. And I think, you know, without the pandemic, we might not be seeing things as clearly as many of us are seeing things right now. And it's not all good. You know, let's
No,
keep it
it's not.
real. It's
It,
not all pleasant. The idea that at least half of you harbor some degree of racism, at least half of you think that, you know, the sort of negative, you know, displays of lack of manhood that have been demonstrated at the highest levels. Some of you all applauded that and got behind that. And the hard part is that now we have to still live together. Now we have to still do the work. And once we get beyond this fiasco that's happening right now, you know, Ogu also is symbolic of justice. And so in initiating into the traditions, Ogu always shows up somewhere. I don't care if we're talking about Nigeria, Ghana, Haiti, Louisiana. Ogu shows up and reminds us of the sword that cuts both ways, the cutlass, the machete that cuts both ways. And some people get the marks. You know, there are those who crown Shango, like the king of Oyotunji in the Carolinas, who has the marks. But Ogu has to be present there to defend truth, to defend justice, to ensure the oath, if you will. We might say Ogu is the oath that we take. And so a question that I've been asking in the last few days, two questions, and please don't predict my answer. The first question is, are we obligated? Are we obligated to be patriotic?
hmm.
Are we obligated to be patriotic? And my second question, let that marinate. Are we obligated? The word is obligated. Are we obligated to be patriotic? And my second question, ATR, Lukumi, Santeria, Palo, Voodoo, root word, conjure. My second question is, are we obligated to participate? Are we obligated to participate? Uh, Beloved, if you will, go ahead. You be the first to respond to those two questions. Are we obligated, as an American, are we obligated to be patriotic? As an American, are we obligated to participate?
I would have to say, no, we're not obligated. I mean, patriotism itself is voluntary. It's a voluntary act in the first place. It's a choice. Now, according to my history, my ancestry, uh, we've always done what is necessary. In my bloodline, we've always done what's necessary, especially when it comes to the community, when it comes to family in particular. Uh, Patriotism, it kind of mirrors what family is supposed to be, right? It kind of takes from that. Your love and devotion to your country is like the love and respect and admiration you're supposed to have for your household or your home, your community. that's just not what this country is founded on, unfortunately. Not with these folks that have kind of clumped everybody together with. How can you be patriotic towards a place that did so many vile things to you and will not atone for it in any way, shape, or form? We got
No,
two people that just got elected into this place, and both of them have consciences guilty of doing this in our age. Did they apologize for any of that stuff? I mean, we got a lot of people asking for reparations and things of that nature, but did they even apologize for what they did for the crime bills and the locking up of women and black men? Did they do any of that? Nah.
no,
Patriotism?
no,
Mm.
before we get too far ahead,
Yep.
let me reveal my position to those who are listening on my phone lines, and of course to those who are here in the room. My phone line is 845-277-9143. But my position is first, no, no. Freedom of speech, in my opinion, allows for us. We're not obligated to be patriotic. We're not obligated to that, and particularly with our history. ADOs, ADOs. Okay. Um, but the second question, are we obligated to participate? I believe we are absolutely obligated to participate. Absolutely obligated. And it doesn't mean you have to vote. Doesn't mean you have to vote. But I have an issue with those who don't vote and then encourage others not to vote. Or those who, no matter who wins, they're going to throw salt on them, especially if they're black. And I find it uniquely interesting as a voodoo practitioner, a practitioner of traditional African based religious systems, how quickly, how easily it is for us, ADOS, to attack the Barack Obama, to attack the Kamala Harris, while all 4 years in the middle, you ain't attacking the oppressor. You're not attacking, these other devilish leaders that Neophyte Bokur just, eloquently elaborated on. So I'm cautious and a little bit curious about what I read, what I see, the voices that are coming forward, and particularly in social media. When you're on the ground, on the street, it's a whole different thing in America. And I think that's one of the areas that makes this scary for the individual that's not used to, who doesn't have the awareness and consciousness that we travel in and out of dimensional space all the time. But right now, humanity is being sort of forced through this dimensional shift. COVID, now the politics, the presidential election, the Black Lives Matter, and all the killing, and we are really being forced through sort of this sieve of consciousness. And what's really true, what's really real, is coming to the surface for us. And Ogun gives us an opportunity to cut away the fat, to trim the fat, to get rid of what's not useful, what's not beneficial, or to cut up and reuse and recycle, what we have in a way that's in our best interest. But if our foundation ain't clear, if our cipher ain't clear, it's not healthy, then no matter what you see, it doesn't matter who's in office. It doesn't matter who's not in office. And so some of us have sort of gotten into that rut. And the internet, unfortunately, makes, showing our most vulnerable insecurities that much easier. And particularly if you don't have another outlet for it. Some of us are posting it. And so you go from your spiritual, your candle burning, your tarot card post, to how manic you are, how bipolar you are. And it's interesting to me how quickly we forget that, you know, when the rubber meets the road, when we're at the crossroads of life, as we all are right now, particularly as a nation, how quickly we forget that. And then what we see becomes the truth. And listen, I ain't just talking about my community. You know, I'm sure that it's been said that Neophyte Bocour and Craig Burns and JP Terrell, that y'all voted for Trump. At least that's what's being said, okay? That two black men voted for Trump. And y'all keeping that on the low. But
that's hilarious.
what is that about? What is that about? And as a spiritual community, wow, it was interesting how, you know, scrolling some of the posts, and you see your usual, you know, astrology and this, that, and the other, how little space was even given to what's happening. And it transcends ATR, you know, religious folk, even, you know, all of a sudden, we in this bubble of light and love and joy and what's going on, the hurricane that's spinning outside your house, the tornado that's spinning outside your house. Somehow we don't see that. As if we don't have a responsibility to participate. I think even from a human level, it doesn't matter if you're American, blue, red, Catholic, Christian, Islamic, Voodoo. I think even from a human perspective, we have an obligation to participate, and to participate in a way that, thank you, Goddess Initiative, and participate in a way that benefits the whole, not just ourselves, but benefits the whole. I don't know about you, but I didn't vote for Biden. I didn't vote for Harris. I pulled that lever for Biden Harris. Don't get confused, but I voted for change. I voted for getting Donald Trump out and at least allowing us 15 minutes to breathe and come back at this thing. And right away, the naysayers are kicking in. Right away, in our community, right away, you know, well, it don't matter who's doing what. Well, it doesn't matter who's doing what if we're not going to do anything. If you're not going to mobilize, you know, if you believe there's a third option, then create that, promote that, push that forward. But I don't understand the idea of I'm not going to do nothing, and I don't want you to do nothing either. And I'm going to go out of my way to make you feel as ignorant as possible for even considering doing something. You know, just now, Goddess, as I heard myself talking, that's Donald Trump. That's Donald Trump. I'm not going to wear a mask. I don't want you to wear a mask. We're going to pretend like this don't exist. You know, and half of America went for that. You there, Goddess? You got something to say, beloved?
I'm here. Can you hear me?
Yes. Come on.
Okay. I mean, I feel you when you say, you know, people like Obama and Kamala, and it seems like, you know, they would attack the black people and they don't wear that same energy for Trump. I feel you on that, and I'm with you on that. And at the same time, you know, I feel like, okay, it's not a mistake that Black women create the culture, control the culture, are the culture, and in order to win, Biden selected a some people say black woman, some people say partially black, whatever you want to call her. And to me, that kind of makes me it's kind of problematic for me, because I feel like you're using this person, this black woman, as a tool. And then on her end, whether you consider her a black woman or not, at the end of the day, we hear black men holler all the time that no one supports them, everyone's against them, black women are not on their side. And then in the same breath, we're supposed to support a black woman that has spent her career putting black men in jail. And then, when I think about in terms of Obama, I love President Obama, so don't take this any type of way. But when he got into office, what was done? He passed laws to protect the police 2 weeks after the young lady was killed in Texas. And forgive me, because I still got pregnancy brain right now. Where is that I guess maybe what I'm looking for, because I got a bit of a warrior spirit, is where is that black power? Where is that renegade? Look at Trump. Trump got into office and he did what the hell he wanted to, right? What will stop him for Obama from doing that? What was stopping him from getting into office as the first black president and taking a radical stand for his people and doing what the hell he wanted to, even if they had to walk him up out the White House like they gonna walk Trump up out the White House? You know what I'm saying? I guess on my end, I just want to see, a little bit more aggressiveness. I understand to vote for Biden and Harris was a vote for change. It was a vote against Trump. But as a people, when do we get to the point? It's 2020. When are we going to get to the point where we snatching scalps? Where we aggressive with it, where we don't have to settle for, we'll take Biden and Harris because that's better than Trump.
Now that's Ogun coming through. Now that's Ogun coming through.
I hear it.
And listen, beloved, I relatively speaking, if you understand relatively, I agree with you. My issue is you gave the answer at the last part, maybe your very last sentence. When are the people going to act? When are the people going to act? See, I use this scenario as a symbol. You shouldn't vote. I ain't going to vote. You shouldn't vote. And the minute somebody does decide to get in a position, we're going to tear them down no matter what. But then when we get back to the street, back to the neighborhood, back to the grassroots level, I agree with you. Where is that fire that Black Panther Party, we're going to create food for all the children fire? Where is that? And I think we have too many armchair revolutionaries, just as we have too many armchair psychics and spiritualists.
Now, what I do agree with you about most definitely is I don't feel like, okay, that's my position. I'm not going to tear you down because you want to vote for these people. You understand what I'm saying? I feel like I'll talk to you and we can have a conversation and I'll let you know my point of view, where I'm coming from, how I feel about it. And if I can make you informed, but I still don't feel like, I have a right. My stance, period, is that people have a right to support and vote for whoever they want to. People have a right to feel and think however they want to. That is the whole concept of being in a free country, being in the free world, having free will. You can feel however you want to. You can think however you want to. You can do almost whatever you want to. So
now, hold on, slow down, goddess, because I just want to make sure this don't get lost. That's why my second question was, as an American, and then I said as a human, do you have an obligation to participate? Now, you ain't got to vote. You ain't got to vote, just like I don't have to play basketball. I don't have to golf, but we have an obligation to do something. And I think, to support what you're saying, when I look at what the community is doing, we sort of get into a comfort zone.
Yeah.
Rightly or wrongly. Now, that's real easy for you to say that Obama should have sacrificed his life. Obama should have, let them kill him. Obama should have let them, bastardize his name for generations to come because he stood out for Black people. It's real easy for us to say that until you are in that position.
Oh, absolutely.
And Ifa and Fa, Afa, is about balance. Is about balance, and then balance movement. Now, I'm not saying we should agree with the system. I'm not saying we should agree with anything. What I am saying is, I find it problematic for us to just talk about our disagreement, complain about our disagreement, then put that on to other people, and then not do anything at all.
Absolutely, absolutely. I agree, and I also feel like the disagreement shouldn't be it's there's this trend of this polarized thinking that either you agree or you're a hater or you're wrong, and the conversation and this discussion has been lost. It's just when you go online, it's just arguing. It's just, oh,
Right.
you don't agree with that I support Biden Harris, so you're a Trump supporter. F you. There's no room for differences and respecting differences, and I find that hard to swallow because I feel like intelligent people have to understand differences. Even if you don't like them or you don't agree with them, you have to understand that everyone's not the same and people are going to feel differently and see things differently and synthesize information differently. And, it's just kind of hard because there's like just this bandwagon, that people jump on, and then that's just it. You know, where's the room for movement, the room for improvement, the room for tweaking, all of that.
Now, I'm willing to offer that it starts with the self. I don't care who you are. It starts with the self. But particularly in this room, spirituality and religion, ATR, particularly in this room. That's why my second question was, do we have an obligation to participate? See, because we can literally shut down. Even on ourselves, we can shut down.
Mm-hmm.
You might stop bathing, you might stop eating, you might stop exercising, you might stop doing the things that bring you pleasure, that bring you joy. Now, I got some healthcare workers out there listening to me right now who might say I just listed some of the basic symptoms of depression, or many forms of depression. And I think that when we think about politics, COVID 19, the idea of mental health gets lost in that noise that you just described, Goddess, of back and forth and arguing. And sometimes I pull back, and I don't pay attention to what's being said or what's being typed, but the energy behind it. It's just like how we sort of have an instinctive, we should have an instinctive response to someone who might be a little bit off. You done got out your car, you about to go into the Walmart or whatever, and John so and so approach you out from the left. Something in your instinct says, okay, wait a minute, he ain't selling, Girl Scout cookies. This might not be a good scenario. But when it comes to doing that for ourselves, on ourselves, whether we're talking about us individually or even our community, I agree that the black woman won this election. The black woman made this election. Let me reword that. Biden won this election because of the black woman. But we
Mm-hmm.
have to ensure that the black woman wins because of this choice. We have to ensure that. And so I think it's a mistake, no matter who's in office, Obama, Reagan, Trump, Biden. It doesn't matter who's in office. If we stop acting, stop the activism, stop the grassroots work, stop the effort, then absolutely it's human nature to sort of resort back to what's familiar and what's convenient. And white supremacy, racism, has become an entitlement for people who say, well, that wasn't me and my family didn't own slaves, but you're from benefiting from that same system. Another question I had, Goddess, I want you to help me speak to is about the idea of ADOS. And do we not consider Jamaicans? Do we not consider Haitians? Or are we very uniquely zeroed in to just the African in America experience, based on the dynamics of our circumstance? I invite you and anyone else in the audience to respond to that.
Yeah, I think it just depends on who you're speaking to. I mean, me personally, um, I don't feel like you just have to be, you know, African American to be considered black. I think, and I can't obviously speak for everyone. I think a lot of the issue, and I don't know this for fact, but from what I was hearing and reading online, that a lot of the issue that people had with Vice President Harris was that not so much that she quote unquote wasn't genuinely black, but that she was not claiming her blackness until it became convenient for her. That's what I was hearing. Now, I don't know if anybody else observed those comments coming from people, but
Forgive me, I didn't mean to interrupt you.
no, go ahead.
Yeah, I've heard that, but then I did my homework. Now, let's remember now, the largest number of Africans outside the continent of Africa is in what country? Is in what country? India. India. Okay.
Mhm.
The second thing I want to look at is her father is Jamaican, straight up Jamaican. Okay. Now, let's bring it a little bit more close to right now. She went to Howard University.
Mhm.
Okay. She's a soror, aka.
AKA, yeah.
How black? How black does she have to be? I mean, are we? What's the definition of black
Right.
beyond DNA, bloodline, and lineage? And listen, I'm not agreeing or disagreeing. I might be admitting that I'm confused.
No, I'm right with you. I'm right with you. Like that's why I'm saying. Like that's why I said it wasn't my personal opinion. It's just what I've been
Right.
observing the argument back and forth. Because I'm kind of, I won't say I'm indifferent, but I've been a little bit detached because I got other things going on. But so it's like I pay attention and but like some of the smaller things I haven't really been like I haven't been investigating her ethnic background. You know what I mean? But I see stuff go back and forth online. Um, and that's always seems to be the argument that she's not really black or she doesn't claim her blackness. And I mean, like you said, what what for me, okay, fine, that's not even an issue for me how black she is. I just want to know what she's about and what she's gonna do. That's what I'm more interested in.
Mhm.
you know
Right. And so for me, I get that she's a prosecutor, and I get that. And if we're going to judge her on that, then man, we can judge a great population of Americans on that. Judges, lawyers, those who work in the penal system. If we're going to judge her on that. Also, as I suggested earlier in the conversation, are we comparing her to white supremacists? Are we comparing her to enslavers? There's even a rumor now that her Indian family owned slaves in Jamaica. Now, I don't know how true that is, but I mean, did you see Different World? I know that's an old TV show, but
hmm
black people, Creole people own slaves right here in Mississippi, right here in Louisiana. Sometimes your best option was to buy your family out of slavery.
hmm
And so there were black and white people who bought many slaves to take them and remove them, from slavery. So I agree with you, beloved. I agree with you for the most part. I don't understand why that matters any more than Biden's ancestry and background, Trump's ancestry and background, you know, uh, and we
If I
saw the
could,
same with
i-
Obama.
If I can say just a couple words here, I personally, I'm not really uh, taken back by whether or not she can pass a brown paper bag test or not. I'm from California.
All
I've
right.
got I've got relatives that she's locked up that are still incarcerated for marijuana. Marijuana.
Yeah, that's
Isn't
what.
that
Yeah, that's
legal
yeah, that's.
right now?
And she, hold on. She is not the only one.
Oh no, no, by
We
all
have,
means. No, she's definitely not the only one.
hold on. We have a black female politician here in Louisiana right now
Hmm.
who's being judged on the very same thing that she locked people up, gave people felonies over marijuana. Now again, this is not Kenya. We haven't formed no Mau Mau, if y'all understand what the Mau Mau is.
Yeah,
Okay, so
talk
to what
about
degree do we expect these regular folk who are working their jobs just like you and I, paying their bills, feeding their children, to what point do we expect them to go rogue?
But
Because you,
that's one of my points, though. Period. Exactly. I mean, with is why I kind of don't understand um, how people are reacting to Trump being out of office and Biden and Harris being in office as if we found our savior. For me, at the end of the day, they're all politicians. They're all politicians. While Harris and Biden might be better than Trump, they're all politicians. And I mean, it's like you said, they're doing their job. I mean, and and regardless of whether one party might do a little bit more for the people than the other one, I mean, it is what it is. If nothing came out of Trump's term, I mean, he pulled the curtain back. He showed the people who didn't already know what really goes on behind closed doors in the government. You know, I feel like people.
hold on, goddess. I need you to be more specific.
Well, I feel like people prefer a person that throws a rock and has their hand versus a person who lays their cards on the table. I'll say it like that. It's the same shit. It's two different toilet. You know what I mean? Like it's not like he's Mia Fight records stating that she's putting people in jail for barely nothing. It's the same on both sides to me. I mean, one may be a little bit worse, but they still it's one has better customer service. They selling the same thing though.
yeah. We're still looking at comparing track records, and we're looking at lengths of time.
Fat
Biden
boy,
has been in politics for a great deal of his career. So has Kamala Harris. I mean, again, I understand what she's supposed to represent right now, but I'm just looking at what she's consistently done. And when we're talking about patterns, I'm more concerned about what she may, in fact, sustain from doing, or what she might go back into the repeal of doing. Right? These laws are still on the books. I'm concerned with the laws that are on the books. What are their efforts to correct the course that they started off on?
mm-hmm.
Are they changing that? I don't really see them offering any change in that sense.
But I say, because God has used the word selling. They all selling the same thing. Um, and that may or may not be true. Um, why is it 30 brands of toothpaste? And what's the difference? And why is one toothpaste $40 and another toothpaste 99 cents? I
Yeah,
also,
visibility.
if we're going to look at it from a position of selling, um, are we suggesting that we'd rather the country were run by Bull Connor and the Klan, as opposed to giving, diversity and opportunity? We made some of the similar arguments with Obama. And I've noticed, again, I am a little bit older, that whenever somebody black, aspires to something, there's that delegation that is going to tear them down, no matter how good they are. And we're too quick to sort of lump everybody in the same pot. So to say that all politicians are somehow intrinsically evil and wicked, just one's a little bit better at covering up than the other, sort of denies our role, our responsibility for participating in the system. Now, I'm going to hold every AKA responsible. If you get up there and clown, I'm going to hold every, Howard University supporter responsible. But to what degree do we hold other leaders responsible? Why is it that we, get the most aggressive when they pass the brown paper bag test? Why is that?
That
We made hardly a
Yeah.
fuss about Trump.
that is one of those things that's uh, put into the system itself.
Right.
We are essentially indoctrinated that way to where we see when we see it, we have a certain response to it. Now, I call in question the system itself because that's the one thing that's been consistent. The system in itself, the thing that is being used to govern this country, is the one thing that hasn't changed. I mean, when's the last time they went back and tried to reverbalize these amendments that we follow, that we hold so dear, let alone the Constitution itself? I'm talking about those very specific things, not the people who are enforcing it. The people who are enforcing it are just
No,
just indoctrinated as everybody else is. They go through the same issues and pitfalls that we all suffer from. But what I'm saying is the system is intact and is still working the same way that it's been working. The gears are continuing to be lubed, and the machine is still running, and we're in it. Not the people who are
I would
responsible for
say, okay,
cleaning the dust off of it.
I would say that we are in multiple
Right.
systems,
yeah.
because you got your crime system, you got your grassroots system, you got your cashless system. We're involved in multiple systems, and again, I still agree with everything you all are saying. No one said anything wrong, but my issue is, when do we do something? When do we decide to stop supporting those things that we know are not in our best interest, that we know are working against us, and put our eggs in a different basket? If there indeed is to be a third option, when are y'all going to create that? When are we going to make that happen? It could very well be someone under the sound of my voice right now, but we
Yep.
can't just seasonally complain. We can't just keep, tomorrow it becomes a meme. I mean, they got memes about her already. They got memes about Biden already. Tomorrow it's a meme, then it becomes pop culture, and then we settle right back down, like Neophyte Bokur said, into the system that we are most comfortable with. And if we look at it from a perspective of an addiction or a mental health issue, you're going to continue to do the same thing over and over again, anticipating different results, only to fall on your ass every time, until you make some concerted effort to make a detour. Now, I would like to think from the perspective of the ATR community, the spiritualists, the practitioners, even the dreadlocks and the Rastas and the Muslims that bend, that have created an economy, selling beads, selling, a watchtower, and taking those resources and growing them into bigger businesses,
Yeah. I
affordable
have
housing people to, and we don't give those people any credit.
But
You know,
unfortunately, you have people in the spiritual community who are not, they're not having these conversations like how you're having here, where they're even open to, like you said, okay, when are we going to organize and do something different? I saw someone on Instagram yesterday who has thousands and thousands of followers, an influencer on Instagram. She sat for hours yesterday and argued with her followers over Biden and Harris, and every single person who disagreed with her, she took the time out to respond to their comment to basically, prove herself right. So if you're not going to even be open and you have a platform to thinking, well, maybe there's a different way, and you have all these people that you're quote unquote influencing who are following you, then what are we doing?
listen, I agree. We kind of preaching to the choir in this space, but why does that influencer have all those followers? Why do we continue to support that which is not in our best interest? Why do we keep the cigarette companies alive? Why do we keep the beer companies alive? Why do we keep the churches in the poorest communities we have alive? Why do we keep the foreign-owned corner store that decides to move into our, food desert of neighborhood? Why do we then keep them alive? See, and as a spiritualist, because some of y'all came here for voodoo and witchcraft, that's what we're talking about.
Oh, yeah.
That's exactly what I'm talking about. So why then do we support that which is not in our best interest?
It's multifaceted. I mean, it's trauma bonding, it's the negativity bias, the built-in negativity bias. People respond innately to negative, and then that lights a fire and it gets that adrenaline rushing, and then they're addicted to it. And then people who have issues, depression, they go online and they see someone who's an influencer who has depression and they don't know it or don't want to admit to it, and they start trauma bonding with them online, and then they're telling their friends to follow them, and then all these whack ideas that they have in their head that are not healthy, they think that they're okay because this influencer who's also not healthy is putting them out into the world, and it just is a cycle, and it keeps going and keeps going and going and going, and no one is taking any accountability for what their issues are. No one's. Go ahead.
There's an older term for that. I like using the older terms. Misery loves company.
Right.
Right.
Let's keep it real. That's what's going on. That's called Stockholm Syndrome.
Yeah.
That's what that is. Now, in order to break that, you have to be put in a position where you are uncomfortable. Uncomfortable to a point where you're willing to get up off your butt and do something. Now,
but that's what scares me.
I love that too. Fear is exactly what you need.
Someone who was born in the late 60s, I've seen a lot. Riots, upheaval, natural disasters. I have seen a lot. So that very thing that you just said, that's what scares me the most. What does it take? Nuclear war? What does it really take before you decide?
The very serious threat of.
Well, let's talk about that, because you were born in the 60s. Okay, I was born in the 80s. So somewhere in between your generation and my generation, something happened, right?
Yeah.
Because people in your generation was in the streets. The Black Panthers were in the streets marching with guns, and people in my generation are on the block shooting guns at each other, right? So at some point there was a disconnect there, and the energy was redirected, the wrong way, and it hasn't recovered. It hasn't recovered. I mean, I'll put it like this. I have a daughter that's 23. I see that their generation is a little bit more focused towards that way. They kind of just don't sit and take it. My generation, I'll be honest, we didn't do too much of nothing.
We tend to sit down and play our video games and whatnot.
Yeah. My generation is focused on Jordans and Gucci. You know, we came up in it. You know, we were born in the '80s, raised in the '90s. We came up in when the videos of Puff Daddy was, you know, blinging, showing money. That's what my generation is about. You know, that's all. You know, and so it kind
It's
of, you know,
a
we
matter of being, if you don't mind, it's a matter of being addicted to your comfort. I would say that our generation, because I'm in the same generation as you, um, we're addicted to being comfortable. We're addicted to having those things microwaved and, you know, instantly done, and we can, you know, grab our Pop Tarts and Hot Pockets and be satisfied.
Mm-hmm.
Whereas the generation before, they had a lot more going on that put them in an uncomfortable position. Now, unfortunately, the shot's got to happen. You know, you got to go to the doctor. You know, you got to get a shot. You know, you don't want it, and you know, because it hurts. But if you don't get the shot, it's going to get worse. So you endure that part. That's what our generation needs to come to terms with, is the fact that we're going to have to be uncomfortable. The generation that they had the motivation. Now, motivation was what drove them to get out of that trauma. The motivation was, okay, these people are literally killing us in the street. How are we going to defend ourselves? Well, guess what? That ain't changed. It's the same thing. It's the
It's the
same exact
same
thing.
thing.
Only now we can see it because we all have a mobile phone with a camera attached to it, and now we all can see that. Now you can take that biblically if you want, but I'm just saying what reality is. We can see it now. There's no place for these people to hide. There's no place for the trauma to hide now. Now everything that was done in the back corners and done in the shadows are exposed. This is the light that you were talking about here. And the light needs to be shined on those things that need to be exposed the most. We have to be uncomfortable in order to wake up. I mean, that's how you get shook out of your dream state. We're in a dream state right now. We're still groggy. Some of us are mostly still groggy, but we're in a dream state right now. And the only way for you to wake up out of that dream state is be traumatized out of it. Unfortunately, that happens while we're awake too. Like we're awake, that's got to happen. It's inevitable.
Yeah, you know, there's these rooms in America where healing takes place, and that's a saying that I've heard tossed around, that, you know, when we're talking about addiction in particular, you haven't suffered enough, you haven't endured enough pain, and again, that scares me, that worries me, that gives me a degree of anxiety, in that we are now living in you know, what in the 80s was a dream as it relates to the internet. The information superhighway is what they were calling it back then. And so the idea that we have a limited, unlimited information available to us, you know, at our fingertip by way of our device. And so I don't want to pick a particular age group or a particular generation, but because I think it's infected everyone to some degree. Back in the day, you had to memorize all your phone numbers.
Right.
People memorize all their phone numbers today. So the wiring in your brain, in your consciousness changes. It grows in some areas and it shrinks, contracts, you know, in others. So the idea that I can Google it, I can Bing it, somehow translates in the Western mind as knowledge, as wisdom,
Mm-hmm.
as education. And information does not equal education. Information does not equal, you know, beneficial, you know, in some cases. It has to be deciphered. And so our critical thinking abilities, our abilities to be honest about my personal feelings about my life and what I'm going through, versus who's in charge in the White House. Now, when I hear them talking around uneducated, white men, with limited education, et cetera, we could say the same thing about so-called minority communities. When you're attempting to really make big, complex choices and decisions about politics, about COVID-19 and medicine, you know, we've got to get serious about the value of education. How Dr. Fauci has been treated and is being treated is symbolic of that. Who ignores the doctor? Who ignores the scientist? But because of the internet, we now don't trust anything. We now don't trust anybody. And once you get locked into that place, I can't trust the left, I can't trust the right, I can't trust the people that are doing right, I can't trust the people that are doing wrong. Where do you go from there? Where do you go from there? And so you've got to build up first from self-trust, and get clear about what you know or what you don't know. Get clear about what you understand. Listen, I voted early. I went into that poll and I had a cheat sheet. They send you those little those cards in the mailbox weeks leading up to, from your various organizations, Urban League, NAACP, whoever, telling you who to vote for. So I take those sheets and then I do my research and I figure out who is what. And I, take a black marker and I scratch off some, and I add others. And I carry that with me into the poll. Now, I'll be honest with you. I got a little bit of college education. Some people would say I'm smart. I would have been lost without my little placard. So when I think about my brothers and sisters who don't read that well, who might have dyslexia, and so the letters are moving around on them, who don't understand laws and legalese. Some of the things that are on the ballot involve legal words, legalese that we don't use in common everyday language. And Americans in particular won't say, "Hey, I need help. Hey, I don't understand this." It's almost, instinctive for the American to assume education when education might not necessarily be there. Every day somebody contacts me and say, "Oh, well, I did my research on Risha." Well, what did you do? "Oh, well, I Googled it. I Binged it." You can't even give me the title of a book, you know. But they searched it. I researched it, you know. So it's scary if we don't get our personal identities in check. Black or white, red or blue, American or UK brothers and sisters, Craig, we've got to get our minds right. Otherwise, everything that we see is a dream thing. Neophyte Bokur, everything is an illusion, particularly if you can't trust anything. I can't trust what I see, I can't trust what I hear, I can't trust what I read. So then what are we centering on? So then what becomes the foundation for clarifying reality? And I believe that is why, to some degree, we see a greater degree of mental health. Because people are literally spiritually going in and out of dimensional spaces. And once you can't tell one for the other, you might get lost.
Oh, yeah.
Some of you are instinctively fearful of meditation for that reason. If I get too quiet, if I get too still, can I lose my mind? Can I leave my body and not be able to come back? Some of you have that fear. Oh, you may not say it out loud. I'm gonna say it out loud for you. Because I've had that fear when I was 18, 20. I've heard other people describe their fear. Some of you have a primal fear of hell. You ain't been to a church in 30 years, but that programming is still there. I can't tell you how many people contact me every week, and they feel comfortable enough with me to share that. I still
Right.
dream about it. So if you
If
want
I
to
can touch on that just a little bit,
come on in.
uh, because that's what I realized a long time ago. Well, it's a long time ago for me, but it's that fear, right? Let me ask. I'll throw this out here. Uh, you already, because you can Google stuff, you already know that some of the stuff that's quoted in the Bible and while you're at church, you know to be in question, but you still go because you fear going to hell. You fear what hell is. So essentially, like I've said before on a previous video or stream, you go to church to pay up your life insurance package. Your church is now your hell insurance. To make sure that you don't go to hell, you go to church to make sure, because you don't know. You have no idea what's after this. You don't know. So just in case, you want to make sure that you got all your credits up together, with the good book, and you've been saying your Hail Marys, and you've been saying you've been going in and you're making your prayers and whatnot, but you're still afraid. If you really believed in your faith like you do, it would shed your fear of it. But obviously you don't. That's why you keep going. My fear was this tattoo I have here, spiders. My fear is spiders. I have arachnophobia like a mother. But then I realized that, there's somebody called a Nancy that there's somebody called a Nancy that is for me, who is there to protect, guide, teach, and help me to understand the environment that I'm in. Oh, that's different. Well, where does he come from? Oh, he's African. He looks like me. Oh,
You're sort
so
of
why are you afraid of it?
you're sort of describing, in other words, you're sort of describing a mental health transformation. How
Exactly.
we are exposed to certain things, maybe traumatized by certain things, but then can get to a place of healing and understanding and self reconciliation, and then we can move forward. And I think the Goddess Initiative was speaking about, we sort of got to this place where we just stopped, and people just
Hmm.
got into self and stopped thinking about the neighbors, the family, the community, the whole. And so, I'm back to that question: what has to happen? Does an asteroid have to fall out of the sky?
That would be the easy part.
Yeah, stand up, individually and collectively, and do this work. This particular week, since the election, has shifted me greatly inwardly, more than I can probably express right now. I didn't plan to talk about this, but it made me reevaluate who I am and what I'm doing and the end result of what I'm doing. Is it really beneficial? Is it really healing? I think JP Terrell and I talked about this a little bit on the phone, a couple of weeks ago. Periodically through my life, I, I examine what I'm doing. Would I be better served to be in California on the beach, in Venice? Would I be better served, living in a third world country, or in Nigeria or Ghana or Cameroon, you know? And this really made me think about my voice, my footprint, the seeds that we all plant individually at every single moment, every single day by our demonstration, what we do, what we say, how we act, how we confront the challenge. Because Ogun is about confronting challenges. There's a whole fiery element to Ogun that can upset a authentic voodoo ceremony, and people get back when Ogun shows up and is spraying fire and is swinging a machete. And the machete cuts both ways. We can't be self-righteous. We can't condemn the system and condemn white supremacy and condemn the man and condemn, the traitors without looking at ourselves. And so both the judgment and the healing, because the machete is also symbolic of the healing process. We have to gather nature. There is no voodoo without nature. There is no Ifa without nature. And so that machete also cuts the airway, cuts the plants, cuts the root, helps to grade up the bark that might be used in a healing preparation. So we can't just be warriors without being willing to do the healing work that comes with it.
Oh yeah.
Fat Boy 269. That would be who would ignore Ogun. The one who would ignore battle, the one who would ignore or try to avoid or run away from the challenge. Like Bob Marley saying, he who runs away will live to have to fight another day. But it's also about the healing. When we ignore Ogun, we're also ignoring the very foundation, the very preparation necessary for healing. And then Orisha Ekko or Chosi, brings the plant, brings the herb, but Ogu's got to chop that up. Ogu's got to be a part of the preparation for. Yeah, Jennifer Anderson, y'all don't know how to suffer. Yeah, listen, I connect with that on so many levels. What would you do if neophyte before couldn't work and the trucks weren't rolling? What are you really going to do if Walmart is closed for more than a month, 2 months, 3 months? You all do realize that there's another toilet paper and cleaning supply shortage happening right now. Right now, they're starting now to, on a regular basis here in New Orleans. Now they're starting to count how much paper supplies you can buy because they don't want to sound the alarms again. The Republicans have messed that all up.
Let me give a little detail to that part real quick. When you're going out and you're going to go supply up and everything, make sure that you have your toilet paper and all of that stuff. That's all good, but from what I can see, from where I've been already, and you guys already know I've been out here for a minute, it don't happen everywhere.
That's right. That's right.
Right? Southern California. I'm from California, Southern California. All of the Denny's and stuff are closed. All of the restaurants are closed for COVID and whatnot. But you go up in Northern California, and let me tell you what is open for you to go and sit and dine in. Right? Now, this is California. You're supposed to, we're supposed to be, following these ordinances and everything. Okay. But why aren't they doing it? Are they special? Do they have no? They got the privilege for the skin tone is what they got. But it's like that in just about every place that I've been.
This weekend we had a church group, apparently a white church group, showed up at Jackson Square. Some of y'all familiar with Jackson Square, okay? And had a super spreader. It's video, and now the city is scrambling to explain who permitted this, who allowed this to happen, and why didn't anyone break it up? Why didn't anyone interrupt it? I also noticed that, the Republicans are sort of clapping back about all this excitement and jubilation over the Biden-Harris ticket and the massive crowds of people that have come out of the street in the last few days. But from my virtual eyes, and I got many, I got 64 tabs open right now. Most people have masks, but when you look at the Trump super spreader events, those people were not wearing a mask, and neither were white evangelical Christians that sort of showed up and had this spontaneous concert in the middle of Jackson Square, Military Park. I believe it was yesterday here in the fourth quarter. So there's definitely different rules for different people. In all fairness, I do think that Trump has demonstrated a level of uncontrollable, behavior that has never spread out into the community. So it has emboldened, racists to be that much more racist. It has emboldened, quiet white supremacists to be more liberal white supremacists. And so we're seeing a lot of that show up, and it's not going to be poof gone, in 60 days, 70 days, because we have somebody new in the White House. And it's there that I agree with you, Goddess Initiative, that no matter who's in the White House, no matter who's in charge, until we address the systematic issues that we confront and that we face, the general reality does not appear to shift. I said the general reality, because when we start looking at it from an individual perspective, generation strides. With each generation, there are people moving forward. Men with, various ethnicities, various genders. With each generation, there are those that are moving forward. So once they do, we start judging their integrity. Just like Trump is doing with the election. He's literally challenging half the country, your integrity. He's literally challenging every one of you who voted him out. He calling you a lie. So it's not just the system, it's us. It's us, neophyte vocal. It's us, goddess. It's us. And if we don't commit, just as we find to do on an individual level, when you decide you don't want to be fat anymore, and you, like my sister Wapani, and she put in that work, girl is fine as wine now, and have been for years, and has maintained it. And I think when we look at mental health, when we look at spiritual balance, you have to be willing to do that work. And that work is not contingent on the weather. I don't care who's in office. House of I don't care. House of Divine Prince survived the Reagans, the Bushes, the Obamas, the Trumps. It keeps moving forward. And I think Goddess and Neophyte, because y'all are closer in age, as you get older, you start to see those patterns. You realize certain things don't change. They just transform. And then you realize that there are certain things that do change, that you can move forward. We see people in their 50s and their 60s going back to college, getting doctor's degrees and master's degrees. It's that pain element. It's that trauma element. And you either get tired and sick and tired of being sick and tired, or you just find just enough strength to keep doing what you're doing and just roll it over. And so there's some of us that see racism, that see the improprieties in society, you know, and have a sense of, you know, damned if I do, damned if I don't. And they're just kind of like zombies, just moving along. And I don't expect to see that in my community. I don't expect to see that in the ATR community unless, well, see, I ain't gonna get on my soapbox. If you are an authentic spiritual practitioner, you are on an authentic spiritual journey, it is times just like right now that the work has to be put in. It is times just like right now that who you are comes to the surface. Who you are stands up in the moment. I've been going through charcoal. I've been going through product. I mean, this is the time for ceremony, for ritual, for clarity. Not just because it's Halloween, not just because it's astrologically, you know, sound thing to do right now. You know, it's about how we address life and ourselves and developing that will and that ability to move forward. I remember the day back in 1986 that I got up and threw out all my Western clothes. I said, damn it all, jeans, suits, ties. If it had a label in it, if it wasn't African, I got rid of it. Just cold turkey, like cigarettes. Just got rid of it. And from that point, I was probably, I don't know, 19 or 20. I decided I had to rebuild a life that was in my image. No matter what you think about how I dress, no matter what you think about how I look, no matter what you think about how much jewelry I wear, you know, respect the voodoo, respect the voodoo. But I'm not going to suggest to you that it was an easy thing to do. People feel they can judge, people feel they can make a comment, people feel they can assume. You know, some of you saw the Don Lemon video from yesterday. You know, I've been called a fag, I've been called a nigga, I've been accused of wearing a dress, you know, and I get up voodoo every day. Every day. I get up Afrocentric every day. I get up spiritual every day. No matter what the weather, no matter who's in charge, no matter what's going on. And I'm human, just like you. I have my moments. I'm not perfect all the time. And it is in those moments that I seek my ancestors. It is in those moments that I check my homework. Oh, before I forget, Arisha and all my godchildren and my clients, if I haven't reached out to you, email me. Just email me. I got people I need to talk to. So I know my schedule is a little bit, um, I don't know why my business is now is running through my mind. But forgive me if I didn't contact you over the weekend. I will. But we've got to be more willing as sacred participants in life, as sacred participants in nature. If you're calling yourself a healer, a spiritualist, a practitioner, a reader, we have an obligation to participate in life. We have an obligation. And even when you're in your quiet space, even when you're in your isolated space, even when you're in your hiatus, even when you're locked away and no one can see you, hear you, we have a sacred obligation to participate. We are indeed here to not just move ourselves forward, but to move life forward. And sometimes we get tunnel vision on what we want, what we need, what we think we don't have, what we think we're lacking at any given moment. And indeed, it is those moments of illusion that allow us to get lost, to get off the path, to get stuck in a rut, to get so negative, you know, that we're seeking out subconsciously other people who are so negative, and that we can only exist in a virtual environment of negativity. You know, we've got to change that. Those of us who say we are healers, those of us who say we are practitioners, those of us who say we're acknowledging and honoring the ancestors, we have an obligation to participate. I'm not here to tell you how to participate. It's not for me to decide. We all have varying skills. We all have varying experiences. Some of you are better writers. Some of you are better speakers. Some of you are better at moving money around. Some of you are better at organizing. Some of you are better at bringing people together. Some of you are better at managing and administrating. But do something. Participate. I can't have this conversation without acknowledging Stacey Abrams. We acknowledge that this election couldn't be what it is without the power of Iyami, without the power of the Black woman. But we also have to acknowledge the work that Stacey Abrams and those Stacey Abrams to come behind her are doing, have done, to move our positions forward. Now, right now, we love Stacey Abrams until she becomes vice president or president, and then we tear down our leaders, and we call it Stockholm. I agree that's one of the conditions, among many other mental health conditions that sort of explains some of our repetitive behavior, as a community. I'm at an age where I'm just bored with the complaining. Really, I am. We have professional complainers, Fox News or Hoodoo. They get paid to do that. But some of y'all are getting paid to do that emotionally. It feels something in you. You're getting something from it, at a deeper level. And that's something that we got to check. In this sacred circle, we can't let that be us. We can't be that. I have the unique ability, and it might be my Asperger's of multitasking. I can complain, watch the news, hear all the death, crime, destruction, mayhem, and it don't change where I am. It don't change how good I feel that day or how bad I might feel that day. I'm at a place in my walk where if I'm not feeling 100, I know that it's about me. It's about me. It's not about you. It's not about Trump. It's not about Biden. It's not about this, that, A, B, or C. It's about me. And I think in the idea of Aunt Jemima, of Mammy, of Step and Fetch It, sucking and jiving, we have a disconnect, especially my brothers, to emotion, to laughing, to having fun, to release. But somehow we embrace sports. I don't get it. I don't get it, and get really emotionally invested in something that we don't own, we don't operate, we don't have financial investment in. And we do the same thing with politics. We do get emotional. We do get excited. I am happy. I'm not dancing in the street, but I'm indeed happy that the moment of Trump is gone. Now what lies ahead is yet to be seen, and we can predict problems. Life is full of problems. You can predict problems, but we don't want to become the person who's only looking for the problems, and it's not a solution builder, a solution maker. I like to look for solutions. Even in the course of my readings, if you don't know already, I'm looking for the solution. I'm not spending a whole lot of time on recanting the story. recanting the story, but getting the details necessary to move forward towards a
Yeah.
resolution. And so I can't exist in a bubble of negativity all day and all night and do that kind of work. So when I see it coming from my tarot readers, my astrologists, my numerologists, Reiki people, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera, when I see y'all doing that in social media, it perplexes my spirit. Go ahead, Neophyte Bokor.
Yeah, I got a lot to say on that one. Just I'll just put myself on the chopping block here because I read. And if you've been watching since I've decided to participate in this channel, you know that I'm autodidactic. I'm self-taught, which is usually the hardest route to go by. Very hard. And I'm not going to say that, oh, you can do it. No, no, not in the least. And I can tell you from my personal experience that when you're putting this stuff on your social media page and you're just kind of you going with this cookie cutter kind of tarot for dummies version of what the cards are, you're missing so much. So much. There's so much in the tarot. And then once I realized that if there's so much in the tarot, how much is it in voodoo that I'm missing? There's so many surface level things that you just kind of glimpse over when you're doing this on the social media page. You went to the store, you bought your tarot deck, you read the book front to back, you got a basic idea of how the major and the minor arcana work, and you go out and you do your first reading, but you do it on yourself. Wrong. You didn't read the book.
Can I jump in real quick?
Yes, sir.
Because that gives me an opportunity to respond to Craig Burns. I don't necessarily believe the need for a leader is the problem. Now, listen, I will admit I'm very ignorant about Europe. So I'm still learning. I don't understand the full complexity or similarities about what the diaspora experience might be in Europe as it is here. But in terms of a leader, we've had many leaders, and we're now in a dispensation where the problem is not a lack of leaders. The problem is a lack of followers, a lack of students. Everyone wants to be self-taught. Everyone wants to be completely disconnected. I'm not connected to anything. I'm no system, no organization, blah, 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 yada, yada, yada. And that's okay. Like Neophyte Bokor, a great deal of my journey, when you were 14 and on the street, a great deal of my journey had to be self-taught, self-motivated. But as he suggested, the work involved is where people fall short. As the guy that said earlier, folks just kind of want to stick to their labels and buy their food and drink their label, alcohol, Ciroc or whatever, and they're not trying to do that hard work. Even with a leader, the leader can only lead, but then you have to be willing to follow. Then you have to be willing to do the work. Then you have to be
too
willing
many chiefs, not enough Indians.
Yeah, and that's not necessarily unique to being Black or a person of color or Hispanic or Asian or American, but that's a Western disease. And you might say that it's a symptom, an extension of white supremacy. The notion that, as I sort of described earlier, that, I don't need to be educated. My internet education is comparable to the man or the woman who worked and got a master's degree. But that's how many of us think. Oh, I Googled voodoo and I understand it. Oh, I Googled cooking. I got a friend, a good friend. I'm not going to call her out. I can remember when the cooking channel was hot. 2007, 8, 9, 24 hours a day. Her TV, her computer was on the cooking channel. And for a minute, she had a restaurant. For a minute. Now I ate in there once. That burger was jacked up. Okay? That burger was jacked up. Now she ain't been to no cordon bleu. She ain't studied at no, university for cooking. And so the idea is very modern. It's very Western. The idea, and to some degree, I think it is programming. I think we're being programmed to believe that we don't need education. We don't need to be told anything. They'll figure, because what Trump is doing suggests they'll figure it out on their own. I don't have to tell them anything. I don't have to make any mandates. It's probably not even real. You'll figure it out. That feeds the American palate. But that doesn't make it good. That doesn't make it right. That doesn't make it beneficial. They would love to end public schools and do something else with that money. They would love to force you to, like they do in Africa. You got to pay to go to school in Africa. Kindergarten through 12, you got to pay. And so a lot of those kids can't afford it, are living in poverty. So we think in America, oh, well, then we'll homeschool. How is that working for you, moms? Who now are learning to homeschool for the first time because of the COVID. How is that working for you? How easy a job is that? It's not. So the notion that we can be self-taught without any elders, any leaders, any teachers, any school, any initiation, any kind of outside direction is just crazy. Information doesn't equal knowledge. You get information about almost anything online, true or fiction. It doesn't equal knowledge. It doesn't equal knowledge. And when we think about more serious topics like earth science, chemistry, you just can't make it up. But without guidance, without a teacher, without somebody who's better acquainted with the subject matter, you're not going to sit at home and make your own atomic bomb. You're not going to sit at home and figure out nuclear fusion, and get off the grid and power your house. It's going to take a great deal of steps and work just to get there,
Yeah, two things. If you really want to like add something to it, knowledge plus experience equals wisdom, right? Basic. That's basic, because you can have all of this knowledge of how things work. You can have all this knowledge of all of the different components of a vehicle, but if you don't have the other part to that, the experience of putting one together, then your all of your knowledge is void, is moot. It's useless, right? But when you put those two things together is when you start to get wisdom. Now it's the wisdom that's handed down. Why do I bring that part up? I bring that up because it's not a leader that we're missing. We've had plenty. We've got the structures, we've got the bones, we've got the scaffolding, as you like to say, of what it is that we're trying to build here. But what we need is a tradition, or AKA a code. We need a code that we can all get on par with, that we can all universally agree with. Rules to that code, it's a fight club. It's the Fight Club. Don't talk about Fight Club. That's one of my favorite things. But we would have to collectively get on the same page. Chapter 2, paragraph 3. Get on code. Right? We don't need a leader, because every time we get a leader, they assassinate him. Every time we get a leader, they find some way to throw them under the bus, and we've gotten to a point where
Yeah, hold on.
oh yeah,
You're using extremist language. And
word,
what I mean by that is you're assuming the extreme. When you say every time, you mean every time. And that's not fair. There are too many leaders that are going unnoticed, unrespected, uncredited. We don't acknowledge them till they're dead. We don't acknowledge them till they're dead, and then somebody comes behind and decides they want to write a book or make a movie about it. I think it's unfair to say every time. I think it's unfair to use extremist wording when we start talking about race and culture and revolution, because it minimalizes the work that goes on in between. If we only focus on the march and not the organizing that went into the march, what led up to the refusal to ride the bus, how what led up to the boycott or the successful boycott, then it makes it too easy for people to dismiss not just our causes or what we do, but each other. Oh, he ain't gonna do nothing. She ain't gonna do nothing. Somebody had already tried that. Every time, we start speaking in absolute extremes, you're programming your mind not to accept any option, any out, any difference. And how then do we distinguish real work? Because, I know even from a personal perspective, sometimes I feel this is a thankless job.
sure,
This is a
hey,
thankless
that's true.
you know. And so when I think about our organizers, our grassroots workers, Stacey Abrams and people like that, who are probably giving up lifestyle and social life and, to move causes forward, you know, good trouble, so we got to be careful when we say, you know, they're all going to do. Ain't nobody going to do. I mean, no offense to you, neophyte, but when I think about some of my brothers and sisters in the hood, ain't nobody gonna do, ain't nothing gonna work. You know, you might as well sit down. Who do you think you are? What makes you think you're gonna be different? And the pressure, the peer pressure within
I
our community is great to sort of follow the tribe, to sort of
I
develop
definitely know something about that peer pressure. I
a
mean,
herd,
it's
a herd mentality,
yeah,
especially with the quote unquote black conscious community. If you're not ADOS and ADOS in the way that I say it's defined, then you're against us. If you red and not blue, you're against us. If you're of this religion and not that religion, you know,
yeah. I,
and again, I'll
I
point back.
just I just had to go back and reread or re-listen to that book, the Marie Laveau book that just recently came out. We were talking about that before, and I had to go back and I was like, wow, I can't believe I missed this. I can't believe I missed this as a small detail because you're bringing up the exact example right now. We all know and love Harriet Tubman and respect her efforts in freeing people and being that strong conductor of the Underground Railroad. But then when I was reading in it, and I had to go back and re-study this stuff, that Marie Laveau would have been involved with the Underground Railroad, but
You
she's
got
looked at as being myth. I mean, she's kind of given this mythology about what she did and all that stuff, but that means like despite the mythologies and all that stuff that keep getting plastered on her, this woman was alive and 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 did more for us than just leave voodoo or have her own section of voodoo. She freed us, not just not just in the spiritual sense, but literally she was involved in this. And I'm like, holy crap, I gotta step back.
She's a free woman of color with a great degree of mobility,
Right.
you know, and favor. You know, people liked her, black and white. People loved her.
10
You know,
seconds.
it would be just like if you caught me in your yard. You probably wouldn't panic if it was me in your yard. Now, you might want to know why. You know, what you doing in my yard, Prince? But if it was a
Right.
stranger in your yard, okay, that's the enemy. You know, I was hoping nobody mentioned the book, but because you know, like you said, you had to go back and reread. No one, no one can tell me where I am in that book, and it
Mm,
makes me question people again, people's skills, people's educational level, people's ability to understand. We assume that everybody's understanding is equal. We assume that everybody gets it equally. So everybody should be able to go in there and vote without a problem. Everybody should be able to navigate life without a problem. But it's a little test like that. And still, I think it's over 500 likes on that post. Still, no one, including you, beloved, has correctly identified where I am in that book. So I don't care about me. I'm talking about the symbolism of that. For those of you who say I'm self-taught, I didn't read plenty of books. I got an understanding, you know, and we can read a book more than once and get something completely different from it every time we read it. Every time you
right.
go through the books that I like, I read over and over again. The
Yeah.
books that I like, I keep going back to, keep going through, you know. So I invite you all to purchase the book, The Magic of Marie Laveau, Embracing the Spiritual Legacy of the Voodoo Queen of New Orleans by a good friend of mine, Denise Alvarado. She's also the author of the Voodoo Doll Spell Book. And man, if I was giving away $1 million,
We'd all still be broke.
no one has identified where I am in this book. And it's very specific. She recounts my whole name and title in that book.
Oh, yeah.
Hold on, I can't hear you. Hold on. I can't hear you. I have my computer on mute. Every time someone calls me on Skype during the middle of the show, my Skype is turned up very loud throughout the entire house. I can hear you now.
Yeah. Now, I'm not going to give it away. I done went back, and because I got all this time on my hands, I went back and just went back and had to put everything aside. I had to put everything aside and really hear what's coming out. And I strongly advise any practitioner, anybody who says they respect the voodoo, go and get this book. I'm not trying to be no commercial or nothing like that, but
yeah, we're not getting paid to advertise the book, man.
ain't no way. I ain't getting paid for this. I ain't getting paid for this. But out of all of the things that I've read, all of the places that I've been, this adds to. This is a growth right here. This is. Oh man, it's not something to be taken lightly. I mean, it because it opened up a few other things. I got thrown into another rabbit hole after I've already been in here. I already found rabbit holes, loopholes, places that look like it was going to take you on a whole expedition of knowledge. Turns out to be just another dead end. I've been looping and rounding around this information for a while now. I mean, since middle school. Since middle school, my first book was Devils and Angels.
Yeah.
But
yeah,
right, not Devils and Demons, Devils
Yeah.
and Angels. It's a completely different book.
Yeah,
But what I'm saying is that this book had me going back and re-looking at some of the Jewish traditions, and I'm like, wait, we're dealing with COVID right now. They just recently said, oh, we've got the cure, blah blah blah, and I'm not talking about the vaccine. The Jews already said that, oh, we've got that. And then I just so happened to come across something that said citrine nitrate, whatnot, and carbon whatnot is a good remedy for any of the corona family. The what do you call them? Rhinoviruses that are out there, the family of rhinoviruses. And I'm like, okay, well, these Jews celebrate Sukkot, right? Where they got this citrine fruit, the willow tree leaves and branches and whatnot, and they've got palm branches and like not white sage, but a fourth plant. I just was looking at it earlier. It'll come to me in a second. But they go and they beat that in these little rooms, these booths, if you will. And I'm like, this is interesting because all of these plants have a medicinal value,
Mm-hmm.
right?
Mm-hmm.
All of they all have a medicinal. This so happened that this aromatherapy, which they're doing now, to treat a virus that we're dealing with now, and the Jews are the only ones that are not really worried about it.
I like here in the South, the largest population of African Americans live in the South, whether you all know that or not. I like living here in the South, particularly in these communities that are old. I live in the first black suburb in America. And so when you think of what we've been sort of taught to call weeds, we have plants that grow up everywhere in New Orleans. Wandering Jew, bananas. Bananas are considered a weed in New Orleans because they grow up everywhere. And if people are paying and going on next door and asking people, how to remove, fruit trees, from their
let that grow.
yeah, and so I had to remind, some of my friends that these plants are here because prior to our generation, folks knew how to use this. Grandma, grandpa, great grandma, were using these plants. Wandering Jew, for instance. Many of you are familiar with Wandering Jew, purple, greenish vine. It grows really easily. You can put it in water, it roots very easily. It's considered a parasitic plant because it will take over your entire yard or your entire plant box. But Wandering Jew is completely edible and medicinal and has a compound in it that attacks Alzheimer's and forms of dementia. So I don't think that these quote unquote weeds, dandelions, clovers, bee balm, chamomile, are just there naturally. We know, in fact, I was doing a little study before the show, and we know that the enslaved Africans brought things over in their clothes,
Yeah,
braided up in their hair.
here it
The
is.
straw that they were forced to lay on in these ships would contain seeds and grains that would then be propagated here in the New World. They also found, particularly along the Atlantic coast, along the Gulf Coast, environments that were very similar to what they were familiar with, to what they knew. So they were able to identify various plants even here that they were familiar with from back home. So, the idea that we need to herbicide everything, that we need to put weed killer on everything, it's literally killing us, killing the planet, is a reason why we have no bees in certain regions. Because without these flowering wild plants, what are the bees going to eat? I
Right.
typically have a yard full of bees and butterflies every year. And I'd be so happy because I know that they're responding directly to what I'm doing, the creation of these lush, green, fertile environments to grow herbs and fruit and vegetables. And we
Yeah.
can all do it. I don't care where you are. Start small. We can all do it.
Now, another one of those things. It's kind of, I guess, sidebar to that. So I noticed that same thing happens when not the same thing happens, but when I go and pick up my fruits and vegetables and whatnot for these loads that I have to pick up, these farms that I'm going to, some are organic and some aren't. You can tell the difference. Mainly the Hispanic people that have these farms up in Northern California, they have an understanding of this practice, because you'll see, like with certain fruits and whatnot, certain vegetables, they'll have oleander randomly growing. It's not random. I'm looking at it, but they'll have like oleander right on the outside of their farms and whatnot. You know, it's a natural pesticide, but most people don't know that. It's also a natural laxative, but that's if you want to do something, you know, a little more nefarious with the oleander. But same goes for pomegranate and whatnot. It's like, what are you doing growing a pomegranate tree or whatever to next to oh, I don't know, walnuts? How does that correspond with each other? Well, it depends on how you want to pollinate the stuff. Which bees are going to be useful in pollinating this stuff. Our ancestors knew this to a science, and it traveled the world, and you could see that its influences depending on which part of the planet, you know, it hit first. Where am I going with this?
Oh, Arisha,
That
that's so nice. She says that they have beekeepers in Philly, in the city, who keep their beehives on the roofs of some of those high buildings. That's something I would love to have, is bees. At some point, I would like to have my own chicken coop, you know, and at some point, I would like to have a bigger piece of land, you know, and expand a little bit. But that's wonderful that that's happening. I know it's also happening in New York City and Chicago, and it's greatly overlooked. On the roofs of these high-rise buildings, you know, they have gardens. Uh, they're keeping bees and developing honey, you know. So that's great to know that that's happening in Philly.
yeah, I think the reason why I brought that one up was the myrtle plant.
Hmm.
Basically, I mean, you want to cut down your fever and whatnot. There's your aspirin right there. Also in your willow, right?
Hmm.
But this is part of their religion. It's something that they practice, but I don't think half of them even know it. Now their priests and whatnot might, but again, we're looking at different sciences or
That's what
ethylene.
I think the knowledge gets lost. Just
Yeah,
like us, you know, grandparents pass that down, but the children don't always remember, keep it up, and it's in constant competition with the pharmaceutical companies, the commercialization, you know, of these products. You know, it's easy,
Monsanto.
yes, easier to buy it, you know, go into GNC and buy it rather than grow it or harvest it. So I think, you know, in all fairness, that knowledge does get lost.
Yeah, I mean, I'm trying. I've always been curious as it, because as of like the age of 20, 21 ish, I developed a reaction, an allergic reaction to orange, citrus, and pineapple, right? But then I realized that there's a reason by that. Citrus, most citrus, and actually all citrus and pineapples, it doesn't they don't have an aging element in that plant. It's not found in that plant. But
Well,
these commercial companies are using the natural, which is what they call as natural occurring ethylene, or the chemical that makes fruit rot, on fruits that don't have it naturally, so they can control the aging process, so that they can have um, kind of these militarized type growth processed fruits, or whatnot. particularly oranges and pineapples. And I'm like, okay, well, that doesn't belong there. And if you're spraying ethylene over your crops just so you can have a uniformed crop, you're taking away some, or you're adding something that's not natural to that plant. So it doesn't matter if the ethylene is a natural chemical or not. Ethylene comes from bananas, but you know that it's supposed to be there.
But that's why you have to buy organic.
Right.
Develop community gardens where
Right.
you
Dole claims to be organic, but they're the ones practicing this stuff. So I'm like, oh, okay. When let's be very specific. Organic, grow it yourself. You'd be better off. Go to the farmers markets. Go to places that are actually organic. Not, I mean, don't just go to the store and think because they slapped on something that says organic, you're buying organic. Yeah, you're not. It's not how that works.
Well, if you don't know your food sources, you never can be sure.
Yeah, right.
A lot of your food in Walmart is coming from other countries. So when you aren't familiar with your food source, I understand that I'm privileged to live in the South. I'm privileged to live, 15 minutes from the rural area. I'm privileged to live in a city that still has green space, where food has been grown, heirloom banana trees, heirloom citrus trees, but also space to develop and grow, new things. And even in the growing of new things, there's so many hybrid plants now, on the market to protect from disease, to protect from certain, occurrences that would otherwise limit the production of that particular plant. Like peaches, for instance, which are highly susceptible to disease, and infestation. So you just
It's another one of those ethylene plants.
You got to shop organic as much as possible. You got to become aware of where your food is coming from, even if you are shopping from, some of the major retailers. Be personal, be nosy, find out where your food is coming from. Ask questions.
Yeah. Who's that? Matthew Ferguson put up something right now. Um, he was outside looking at the weeds and stuff now. I think you shared with us a while back ago an app that you were using to let you identify the plants and whatnot in your neighborhood.
Yeah, I was trying to keep that on the low, but it's
sorry about that. But yeah, that was a good tool though.
iPhone app, so I don't know if it works in Android, but
okay.
It's called Picture This. Picture This, and you snap a picture of any plant, any tree, and within a matter of seconds, it's going to identify it. One of the most entertaining things to do is to go through your yard or your community and snap photographs of what you believe to be weeds. Yeah. I invite you to do that.
Yeah, that's real useful for me out here on the road because I can't always get to the natural stuff like I want to. But I do get the chance to go everywhere though.
Yeah, there's plenty of medicine on the road.
Yeah.
Plenty of medicine on the road. Out on those highways, out in the middle of nowhere, you see whole fields sometimes of quote unquote weeds, and it's medicine. It's medicine. And of course, there's a shortage of knowledgeable practitioners. I took a tea the other day.
I'm over here reaching for stuff.
It didn't make my tongue swell. It made my
keep all this stuff in here.
It made my tongue numb.
You're picking up stuff.
And so I immediately called my pharmacist and my doctor to sort of ask them, if they understood what was happening, if they understood the combinations of plants that I was using, if they suspected any, kind of drug interaction. And I was a little shocked I was a little surprised at how little the pharmacist knew and my doctor knew about herbs at all. At all. They were almost taking my word for it, my experience for it, and they could not answer, my questions directly. So you've got to do your homework. You've got to do your homework. You've got to do your homework. You got to be willing to test things out, to be patient, to start in slow doses. You might have a unique reaction to certain plants. We cannot assume that just because it's natural or organic, that it can't hurt you. These are indeed the same plants that pharmaceutical companies are harvesting in large quantities to produce these chemicals and these synthesized drugs and products. So even with your skull cap and your elderberry and your black cohosh root, you still got to take some moderation. Keep notes, document what you're drinking, what you're taking, what you're eating.
Yep.
In the event that you do have a reaction, in the event that you do have a reaction, you know what it is, and you know where to bring balance to it. So I still don't have an answer as to why my tongue went numb a few days ago for my new herbal blend, but I will tell you it brought my sugar down almost instantly. My sugar levels had been spiking high. My sugar levels respond to stress. From the 2 or 3 days before the election, and then subsequent days thereafter, my sugar levels were going up into 200 and 300. They shouldn't be higher than 120 until I took this herbal combination of teas, and it immediately brought my sugar level down immediately. So I swear by nature, voodoo indeed is nature, Ifa indeed is nature, and we need to be willing to commit to the work, the study, the research, the rereading, the re-understanding what we think we have read, so that we can heal the nation, so that we can heal ourselves, so that we can heal our children and heal our communities, and indeed build reality that mirrors our best interests moving forward, no matter who's in charge, no matter who's in the White House. Matthew Ferguson, there are some herbs, yes, that I smoke. I like basil. I like sage. I do tend to mix combinations, so I don't tend to burn one thing isolated or by itself. Um, but yes, absolutely. Again, use your available apps, use your available encyclopedias and medical dictionaries to be sure that you're not necessarily mixing a known toxic combination. That looks like black cohosh root. What is that? That looks like black cohosh root. Yeah, I can't hear you.
No, there's a couple of different natural tobaccos that I found out
Okay,
here.
okay. Oh yeah, tobacco still grows wild. Sage still
Yep.
grows wild out in the western part of the nation. The minute you're on those highways and you driving right by.
Yeah, you drive right by this stuff. I mean, I cringe a little bit at the cotton fields and whatnot that I still pass by, but there's a lot of stuff that grows along those canals and whatnot. That just kind of wash off the farms and whatnot, and they just wash downstream, and they still grow. So it's easy to just like, oh, okay, that's corn over there.
My beloved Shamafia sent me a box of magic mushrooms. She posted a picture
Oh, I got a
on
bunch of stuff.
Instagram. And I saw that picture and I was like, okay, now wait a minute. She either don't have a clue what that is. It's just pretty to her because she was so in love with the prettiness of the mushroom, all black and yellow spotted and whatnot. I'm sorry, all red and yellow spotted and whatnot. You know,
Oh,
like Alice in Wonderland. Yeah, that mushroom, the mushroom. And I said she either don't have a clue or she knows exactly what it is, but she's wise enough not to give a whole lot of details away. So I sent her a
right.
message. I'm like, do you know what that is that you're looking at? Girlfriend, you need to cut that down and wrap it up and send it to me. And she did. She put them in brown paper bags, 3 of them. Now, one of them didn't survive. It like disintegrated like almost immediately. It turned to water.
Oh,
But the other 2 did really well. And so they're naturally sort of drying and dehydrating uh,
okay.
in the bag. But that's a mushroom.
No, this is
Listen,
lava.
you can't keep putting stuff up to the camera. You're not even telling us what it is. We
Oh,
don't know
this
what stuff is.
in the in in between. What is it? Albuquerque, not Albuquerque. I'm sorry, Gallup and the Navajo Nation. There's a lava field that is a patch of land out there that is so huge. You only see a part of it, but you can get your lava stone from off the side of the highway because that's essentially what you're passing through is a huge lava field.
Mm-hmm.
You know, so I go through there and I pick up little bits of lava and whatnot, because every once in a while you get a chance and you can break it apart and you'll find your obsidian. You'll find your different crystals and whatnot off the side of the highway. But you got to kind of know what you're looking at and whatnot. Um,
Just like
uh,
mushrooms. You
yeah,
got to know what you're looking at because it can be poisonous.
right. Like this thing here.
I'm going to be ending soon, too, by the way. So if you all have questions or comments, or you have anything you want to say, I invite you to come on with it. Yeah, she sent me the fly agoric mushroom. I wish I could pop pictures into the. Oh, wait a minute. I can. Give me a second here. Oh, where is it? Oh, yeah. It looks just like this, the fly agaric mushrooms. Can you all see that? That's what Shamafia
Yeah,
sent me.
the Christmas mushroom.
Yeah, that's what Shamafia sent me in the mail. So,
Man,
yeah.
that,
Pretty.
Oh, yeah. Needless to say, I was thoroughly pleased. I was thoroughly pleased. But she had no
if you
idea.
sort of study deep into your history of or origin of Christmas, Santa Claus and whatnot, you'll find that mushroom.
Mhm. You also see it in Alice in Wonderland.
Alice in Wonderland, exactly. I mean, it's a one of those hallucinogens that was used to reach the spirit realm,
Hmm.
right? Uh, I can go in that for hours. I'll spare you that. You're trying to end. We can go on
Yeah,
for hours with that one.
you can bring
Uh,
that to on another show.
yeah, I mean, because Mario Brothers uses that same one, but of course,
Uh,
Mario Brothers is a whole nother thing.
Fat Boy, I think the trucking industry, to some degree, it has to be. When you consider, well, back in my old life, I did security. In fact, my very first job in New Orleans was at P&O Ports. And P&O Ports is one of the, I believe, the second maybe the third largest port in America. Almost all your coffee, all your Folgers come through here. In fact, you can go in the West Bank in Algiers, in certain neighborhoods, all you're going to smell is Folgers coffee. But I checked in, the 18 wheelers would come out to the port, the ships would bring in the containers, and I would have to scan them. And to be quite honest, we only scan maybe one in every 50, 60 containers. So the federal element to it, Fat Boy, to some degree has everything to do with protection, stopping the flow of illegal product and or substances into America. Now I'm not saying that it's perfect. I'm not in agreement necessarily with it. I'm just saying there's a reason that the federal element is so invasive when it comes to the trucking industry in particular. A great deal of our economy as a nation it's run by these truckers, like Pipe Okur, who are getting our product back and forth to these big box stores. So I hear you. It's definitely invasive at the federal level. I had to have clearances and all kind of stuff just to work security to monitor that post. Um, it was Arabs getting on and off those ships, Asians getting on and off those ships, people coming from Iraq, from Israel, from Saudi Arabia, big old ships with Saudi Arabia symbol, slathered on it. And then these guys would get off and ask me how to get to Walmart. Can I call them a cab to Walmart? I probably shouldn't even be talking about this, but these people are coming from these foreign nations, getting on these ships and getting in the Uber and going to Walmart and getting their toothpaste and whatnot, and then they're going back to the ships. Now, I'm sure for the most part, it's not a problem, but that's what we're dealing with. So that's why the federal element is so deeply involved in the trucking industry in particular, just like they are in the mail. Federal mail, government, U.S. Postal, FedEx, all of them, UPS are heavily monitored and have federal attachments.
Yep. Just keep this in mind. All of your clean laundry and all of your dirty laundry goes through our trucks. So everything that gets thrown away, everything that gets brought in new, from your recycling to your dental floss, all comes in here. That includes, well, you got to ship your loved ones when they pass on as well. All right, you gotta understand that. A lot of people don't talk about it, but FEMA is in charge of was in charge of a lot of those bodies, if you will, that were COVID cases. Well, guess what? It still has to be transported on a truck. All right, so you got all your stuff, traveling across this country, and we see it. As drivers, we see it.
With all due respect, I didn't realize Fat Boy 269 was a trucker until like right now.
Yeah, he's a driver.
Yeah, and his avatar has always been the truck, but I never noticed it until like right now. I never noticed it. I swear to God, I never noticed it, Fat Boy, that you was a trucker until right now. And this is not Fat Boy's first time being in the group, in the chat.
He's been here a couple times. I've noticed him. Makes me feel good that I'm not by myself out here. I got people that can actually understand where I'm coming from and whatnot. But I do this. I'm practicing, this way of life out here on the road, and it don't sit well with everybody. I'm surprised at where it's accepted, and I'm also surprised at where I get kicked out of because I'm practicing something different. You know, there's plenty of truck stops where I'm like, you know, kind of not welcome to come in because Voodoo Man is coming.
Oh, bro, I've been kicked out and entryway to some of the finest establishments in America. Churches, a library in Denver, Colorado. Had to take them to court. You know,
Oh,
yeah, it's problematic. This society feeds on commercialism. We get that, capitalism. So it's about what's trending, it's about what's popular, it's about a look. And
yeah.
if I sell 1 million copies of them, great. But the minute you believe something and it becomes real and it becomes something that you are really living, then the dirtiness comes to the surface. And again, this previous administration helped to elevate that. You
Oh,
know,
yeah.
the racists otherwise would have been quiet or stabbed you in your back, you know, in the dark after work. Now they feel they can do it in your face. They can say it in your face. They could be overt, you know, because of the last 4 years in which we sort of lived through. But I think we also have a responsibility to live out loud. There's
I,
still too many practitioners, healers, readers, you know, who are living these split realities. And you're trying to be one thing for mama, and you're trying to be something else for your coworkers and your work environment, and you're trying to be something else for your church environment, and then you're trying to be something else at home in your so-called real life. And that's a challenging juggle. At some point, you got to unify all the facets of who you are. At some point, you got to bring all who you are together, like quartz crystal, clear, refined, focused, you know, with a purpose, and then move forward through this life, through this weather.
you got to stand firm on it. I mean, if you're going to practice this stuff, and I say stuff lightly, but if you're going to be in this world, stand firm on it. It'll support you. It will. I mean, I'm gonna be honest. I had my doubts at first, just like everybody does. But then when I started really going into the details of and connecting the dots of the culture, the heritage, the history, the bloodlines, the timelines, and started realizing that we're not the only ones out here practicing these things. That major corporations are literally dabbling in these um, in these practices that are our traditions on a massive scale. Then you're like, oh, these people are they know what I'm doing.
And
They
the
believe in it,
and
but
the
I'm the
world
only one that don't believe in
is the lead,
it. Like,
and the world is looking for us to take the lead. And I don't mean just, you know, from an American perspective, but that plays into it too. You know, we
yeah,
look
globally,
at Africa, we
this
look at
stuff is
South America.
everywhere.
Everybody wants some aspect of America. Maybe not everything, but we want this
Hmm.
part, but not that part. Well, we want what y'all got, but not everything y'all got. You know, so when I look at ATR, E5, Akan, the indigenous practices in West Africa, many of those communities are aggressively being Christianized, are aggressively being Islamicized. And so they look at us and how we're using our freedom of religion, and it causes them to feel some kind of way. On the one hand, you know, they're showing up in your Instagram DMs. Everybody's about Allah seeking to change their life, seeking to do work. They're matching our energy. They're matching our thirst and our desperation for connection. But at the same time, they're mocking our freedom to live this life without political or cultural repercussions in which they might be experiencing in Nigeria, for example. And then the callous way in which we go about representing this tradition, mixing it up with all of this carnal, sexualized wickedness of the West. And so it keeps us divided when we really should be coming together, and particularly right now. I'm in Africa every day. Every day. I live it. I am it, but I also use my technology. So I'm in Africa every day. I have someone in Ghana I'm communicating with every single day, sometimes all day. Okay. I'm in Nigeria every day. I'm in Brazil every day. And use Google Translate. You know, if they speak Portuguese or Spanish or French, use Google Translate. Just keep it simple. Just keep it elementary. You know, you can't speak slang. You can't use, modernized Western words. Google Translate is not going to be able to do that. Just keep it simple and expand your awareness, expand your knowledge. The world is absolutely getting smaller. That's the one thing I noticed during this presidential thing, like no other time that I can remember. The UK and their comments and their involvement, Africa and their comments and their involvement, but then in the reverse, all the Americans posting about SARS, all the Americans who are paying attention to the police brutality that's happening in Nigeria by Nigerians, while we're concerned about Black Lives Matter here. And so there are inroads being made there, whether you realize it or not, between those two communities, Nigeria and African Americans, around police brutality. COVID made the world smaller. So everybody had something to say about COVID, no matter their language, no matter what country they were in, that we could all sort of connect to. And so this Trump thing is a big thing all around the world. And so they are responding and they're open to communications. That don't mean you don't, you gotta, keep your guards up, make sure your computer security is together, don't give anybody any money, don't get naked on camera, keep it simple,
Keep your toolbox up to date.
Yeah, keep your toolbox up to date, Make sure you got your copy and paste on speed dial. I love my copy and paste. By the time you done posted it, I done already copied it. Before you take it, I done already got it. I done already snatched it. But take this time to be positive. Take this time to look for an opportunity to grow, to rise above whatever circumstance you might individually find yourself in right now. And of course, we might collectively find ourselves in the future. There's always tomorrow, there's always another day, there's always another opportunity to recreate the reality that's in our best interest. But man, you got to be on fire. Your Ogun has to be in check. Ogun come with implements, come with tools. You got to be sure you have all your tools. You got to be sure your foundation is set up, is in place, is correct, is in balance. And then be prepared to act. Be prepared to participate. I do not agree. No, we don't have an obligation to be patriotic. Not when that love and respect is not mutual. But we have an obligation to participate. And we're beyond November 4th. So we're not talking, voting is not even the conversation right now. Unless you live in Georgia, where you've got to turn blue. Georgia, Senate, you got to turn blue in Georgia. But the rest of us have to begin to look towards tomorrow. A reality without Trump, a new reality that might be Harris Biden, good or bad, but better ways that we can come together off air, offline, away from social media, and continue to grow and build our communities, but also grow and build our resources. I'm still looking for and developing practitioners, future practitioners, readers, business owners who are going to operate in spirituality and religion. I'm looking for those who are operating in those things now, but have a footprint, but have a record, who didn't just start, yesterday, but have some foundation that we can use to grow beyond. I'm getting hungry. I'm getting thirsty. I've got to move it forward. I've got appointments to attend to today. Some of you have been calling me since 5 o'clock this morning. Please, www.houseofthedivineprince.com. Send your request, your appointment request, your ritual work request to Divine Prince at houseofthedivineprince.com. Until next time, remembering that all is truly and indeed a blessing. If you can see beyond the veils, for it is all just an illusion and a test, and one of the greatest divine mysteries of this life cycle. Ashe, Ashe, Asheo.
Talk to me nice, I get sensitive. Choice of your words to convey. Your intentions might mean the best, but it's in your approach and delivery. I get so dull by my triggers, probably from niggas who thought that they owned me. Really consider that I do, you do, we do good on our own. Back on my throne, like yeah, accept me at my worst, like you do my best, better than I was last year. I've been facing tests, separate from the rest. Hope you're facing all your fears. I've been going so damn hard. It's been taking all this time. Giving up pain in my blood. It's all in the signs. It's all in the signs. All in the signs. It's 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 all in the signs. I'm so nice, everybody's tired. Eyes on the clock of my demise. To devolve into the quicksand. It's better on the cement. Tell no story, no power in your past. Even if you're 30, gotta make it last. I do, you do, we do good on our own. Back on my throne, like accept me at my worst, like you do my best, better than I was last year. I've been facing tests, separate from the rest. Hope you're facing all your fears. I've been going so damn hard. It's been taking all this time. Giving up pain in my blood. It's all in the signs. It's all in the signs. All in the signs. It's 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 all in the signs.